In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest with me here today. I'm with Olivier Roth. He's hailing over as the head of marketing at The Swarm, and The Swarm is tapping into, how should I say, it's probably one of the most important topics that's out there. There's a lot of pull in the market. Basically, they help you to hire from the network beyond your network, right? Tapping into that next step and combining managing the connections from your team, investors, advisors to find top talent. Probably a lot of marketers and actually more like founders of funded companies listening in here at the moment. So if you find that might be helpful for you, head over to theswarm.com and join the waitlist. So Olivier, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lucas. Happy to be here.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick overview. I gave a quick overview, obviously, but how do you think about the Swarm in your own words? What is it all about?
Yeah, so the Swarm is a network recruiting platform. I'll go over like what it is and also give you a little bit of background to like what led to this concept of like network recruiting. So as a SaaS platform, it's going to be a place where startups, primarily founders, but also like leaders and hiring managers in a startup can add their connections and then combine their connections with the ones of their colleagues, their investors, eventually their advisors, to create this joint network that we call a company graph. And so it's a place to then tap into this extended network, this network of your network, if you will, to first of all hire talent. So we call it network recruiting in the sense that it's like network based, where you are tapping into the network of your network. And it's similar to referral recruiting in the sense that, you're in referral recruiting, you're asking people for referrals. Like, do you know, for example, Lucas, a great like product designers we're hiring for, and referral recruiting works great. But it is manual, right? I'm asking you, I'm sending you an email, I'm asking like individuals in the team, and it's inefficient. And so we're taking this concept of like referrals, but making it much more scalable, because this is all productified, digitized on the platform, where you can not only combine the networks, but also like, vet candidates and collaborate and so on. The evolution of recruiting to network recruiting is that recruiting traditionally is like inbound, right? The first like recruiting motions was, post a job in a newspaper or put a sign on the street where people come in, right? It's like the traditional way. And now the modern version of that is like job boards, right? It's to get people to find your job listing and it's a funnel approach. It's with a wide top, right? A lot of applicants. If you put a job on Indeed or try to use LinkedIn to hire, it's very time consuming, right? You get maybe a lot of applicants, but you have to work through all those resumes and do a lot of interviews to find like the right person. So that's inbound. It's also not really efficient for startups because, well, they're startups, they don't have a brand, and so they don't have like a lot of inbound. It's kind of like sluggish typically for startup, or quality inbound, I should say. And then there's outbound that came out as like more like headhunting or directly reaching out to candidates to really qualify like people and say, look, we have an opportunity here. And that worked really well for a long time, but because everybody's doing it now, like the most qualified people receive messages all the time, and so the response rates are really low, and it actually really hurts your brand too if you do it the wrong way. So you see the evolution from inbound to outbound, and now network recruiting is just a way to build on that like pre-established trust that is between, for example, you have an advisor who knows another advisor, or who knows like the head of engineering that may be great for your startup. You can see how now you tap into this pre-established connection to get a much higher response rate, much better closing rate. And then we see in referral recruiting that people tend to stay longer and be more productive if they come from like introductions like that. So that's where we're building at the Swarm. We're in pre-launch. We're building a waitlist for the last 6 months. we're about in the next few weeks to release two sample of our first paying customers, and in the next few months, public release.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be tapping into sort of the buildup of the waitlist. I want to deep dive a little bit more into what you guys are doing prior to that. So you were showing that sort of spectrum of inbound, hiring through job boards in the modern days to sort of an outbound approach. Sort of where does network recruiting sit in your thought process? Is it something that sort of like sits in the middle? Is it completely detached from the two approaches? Like, how should people organize that in their mind?
It doesn't replace inbound and outbound recruiting, but for startups in particular, that's what we're focusing on at first. It really is a more efficient way to go about it in terms of time. If you're a founder and you've experienced like trying to browse, LinkedIn for hours and send messages and send emails and get like very low leverage kind of activities, you can see how it is very like frustrating. And a lot of founders actually don't have like experience recruiting and find it really, really challenging. So network recruiting is an alternative. As the company grows, you will definitely have like inbound and outbound channels, but network recruiting is just like a really great place to start, and a new model, frankly. I expand that network approach to more than recruiting, where I have a bigger vision of helping company building overall. Once we have this network, right, all of those connections imported, organized, managed, enriched in the system, now you say it yourself, network marketing, right? There's also network selling and network capital and network extra. So there is a broader vision in the long term to based on the belief that companies are built on networks, which is great for recruiting. But once you have this amazing network, then why not use it for sales and stuff? So that's the long-term vision of the tool, but we're hyper focused on recruiting. That's a massive problem. Right now it's like top of mind. Like how should we approach like recruiting now? Is there a slowdown? Is there a recession? I don't know if you've seen the news this morning, 500,000 jobs in July in the US added. So we're officially not in a recession and so on. So things are very dynamic. And the truth is recruiting is just like a long-term game, right? And building your network, nurturing it over time, building those connections. And again, the connections of your connections is something you should do now. So it is like a very efficient, like in the short term, but we think it's like a long-term play to start doing this in some capacity, whether you do it on your side or you organize it in like a product like the Swarm.
Very good. And from a practical level, like just because maybe people are trying to wrap their head around the concept, I mean, conceptually, it makes a lot of sense. On a practical level, me as a user, let's say I'm a founder, I want to find more people to hire. Like, what do I do? How do I leverage the Swarm? What's my experience? What are the steps that I do?
So it's a freemium model, right, like product-led growth approach, and so you can join the waitlist today, and in a few months you'll be able to go in, sign up, add your connections. So first we're letting people add their connections from LinkedIn because, well, that's where like professional connections are nowadays, right? We'll let people add connections from Google Contacts and from GitHub and other sources later. But first of all, add your connections from LinkedIn, invite your team. So you're inviting maybe a few people in your leadership team at first. And then you access this combination of networks. So you have a list, right, that is now searchable, and so you can see like as a combination of networks, like we know 50 head of products out there, and the system is doing a lot of the legwork for you. There's going to be some automated profile suggestions based on your company size and based on the roles that you are hiring for, and the system is going to recommend specific people to look into. So it's like something like a founder of an early stage startups can use, and start really like start small with like a few people. But then the true power of the swarm is when you add like all of your team, right? Um, and we think it should be in the near future part of an onboarding process, that your employees, like you hire a new software engineer, you invite them to your swarm account, they add their connections, and now you have access to their connections. So you see how now you can proactively create those referrals instead of waiting for the person to say, hey, I know another great software engineer. Now you can say, oh, it looks like you know this person, let's talk about it. And so we're doing still a lot of discovery on like that motion and how to make it successful for everyone. But
very cool. One tiny question came up in my mind, so, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are wondering. So let's say I'm bringing my network to the swarm, and now the company wants to reach out. Do they reach out somehow through me, or does the company go from directly from company to, you know, the contact?
Right. Yeah, we're definitely thinking about that, doing a lot of discovery on that. And it is like in the referral process, typically, no one's doing it well, like to productify, to streamline this process. Like, do you reach out? Do I reach out? Does the company reach out? So in the first version of the swarm, we'll have contact information. So you'll get like the email address and the phone number. We're working with like a data partner to build that data on each profile. And so we're going to work with our customers to kind of build that process and then productify it so that you'll be able to do it directly from the swarm. So that's what we're working on.
Very cool. Yeah, let's switch gears a little bit as we sort of, you know, slowly also moving towards the second half and half and end of the interview. I would love to talk a bit about the waitlist, right? Obviously, building a waitlist in a market where attention is rare can be a difficult task. Like, maybe walk us a little bit through your process. Like, how did you get started? Where did you source people? Maybe you were using actually the network effect in itself to do that. Maybe give us a walkthrough of that.
Yeah, so I mean, we did all the marketing fundamentals, like, you know, really defining our personas, understanding like the founder, and we were lucky to have in our team, you know, recruiting experts. Our CEO was the director of recruiting ops at Sequoia, as well as other people in our team. So we have this understanding of like the pain that is for a startup founder and for the first recruiters to, you know, to fill those positions and so on. So we had that knowledge. We did a lot of like discovery, and then refined really like ourselves. And we found that, well, founders and startup leaders, just after like a fundraising milestone is when they have the need to hire them. You get like $5 million in the bank, for example. Now you need to go from, you know, 20 people to 100 people in a short time and execute. Now you have product market fit, you need to hire extra to execute. And so I really focused on this persona by, you know, doing like paid acquisition, but very like targeted, using LinkedIn ads. That was very efficient to do so. And I used a combination of actually like, you know, Crunchbase, so getting a list of companies that just fundraised, ported that into Apollo. That's like a tool to find contact information of people. And now I know like a list every month of like 300 startup leaders that just raised money, and I can import that in LinkedIn and do some like hyper targeted ads. And as far as like the messaging, we're, again, because we're doing a lot of discovery, we have like sound bites of founders saying like how hard it is, or going into like, you know, different aspects of that, and we're literally just like playing it back. And so that worked really well to get people's attention. Because the problem is so acute, and our solution with the network recruiting is original. I think like we had a pretty successful like last 6 months as far as like bit on the waitlist. We see a good pull from the market. So we're like 600 startups now on the waitlist. like kind of like funded startups that are like, you know, looking to use the tool as soon as possible. So really exciting.
Is it already, and feel free if it's you know not yet public or not, feel free to jump over. What should founders to be expect? Like, how does the business model work? Do they pay like monthly? Is it per role? Like, you know, how does it work?
Yeah, so pricing is definitely a big part of my job, and figuring out like how to monetize this. We definitely want to offer like we're offering a freemium model. We definitely want to at a later stage offer like monthly options and like pay per user, or maybe by like bundle of seats, but have like very much like, you know, like pay as you grow model, um, that, you know, that is like the I think we think the way to go for this kind of tool. In the early stage, we're gonna release like an annual plan with like a pretty high like ceiling in terms of number of users and numbers of connections, because we're in this learning phase. So for the heads of growth like listening, pricing is super hard. It really is. But we've done a lot of research and went through a lot of models, and we landed for the launch on a model that lets us learn a lot. So we're gonna let people in on an annual basis, but with like a high ceiling. So they get like a really good deal when they sign up. You know, they get a lot of usage of the product for a relatively limited cost. And then we get to learn how many connections they had, how many, like, what's the virality of this thing, and so on. And then in the future, yeah, we're gonna go into, you know, pay per month, pay per user, um, as we scale.
Makes sense. Very, very good. Time has been flying. We are pretty much, you know, at the end of the interview. Really, Olivier, really appreciate you, you know, walked us through the world of the swarm, and, you know, how things are working on your guys' end, how you talked about and think about building the waitlist. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about the swarm, what's the one thing people should remember?
It's all about like network recruiting, right? So building up your network, it's a long-term game. And even if we're in like a potentially a recession, or a very dynamic, at least, environment, it's a really great time to invest in your network. So yeah, join the wait list, and let's build this up. Thank you.
Thank you.